My name is Adella Smith, and I am 27 years old. I still remember the exact smell of that morning, cheap car air freshener and silence. The kind of silence that sits between people who have already decided something without telling you. I was in the back seat of my parents' car, watching streetlights blur past the window, thinking today was supposed to be different. It was my 18th birthday. I had gone to sleep the night before with that quiet, cautious hope you carry when you have spent your whole childhood waiting for one moment, just one, where your family looks at you like you belong to them. I woke up to my mother telling me to pack a bag. Not a big one. Just enough for a few days, she said. I thought maybe we were going somewhere for a celebration. I got dressed quickly. I did not ask questions. I had learned early that asking questions in that house led nowhere good. My father drove without the radio on. My mother sat in the passenger seat with her hands folded in her lap, like she was waiting for a church service to begin. I watched the highway signs and realized we were heading toward the airport. My stomach lifted for a second. Maybe a trip, maybe something they had planned. Maybe they were surprising me after all these years of birthdays that came and went like ordinary Tuesdays. We pulled into the departures lane and my father put the car in park. He did not turn the engine off. My mother reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. She handed it back to me without turning around. Inside was a one-way plane ticket. The destination was a small town I had never heard of. A place called Millhaven, somewhere deep in rural Vermont. I looked up and said nothing for a moment. Then my father said it. His voice was flat, rehearsed, like he had been practicing those words for a long time. This is your gift. Don't come back. My mother did not say anything. She did not turn around. I sat there in the back seat of that car with a plane ticket in my hand and 18 years of confusion crashing into me all at once. I picked up my bag. I got out of the car. And before I could even straighten up on the curb, they drove away. No hug. No explanation. No last look in the mirror. They were just gone. And I was standing outside an airport terminal on my birthday alone, holding a ticket to nowhere I had ever been. I will not pretend I was strong in that moment. I sat down on a bench outside the terminal and I cried. Not the quiet kind. The ugly kind, where your whole body shakes and strangers look away because they do not know what to do with someone else's grief. I cried for a long time. And then something in me got quiet. A kind of numb, hollow quiet. I picked up my bag, wiped my face, and walked inside. I checked in. I went through security. I sat at the gate and stared at the ticket like it might eventually explain itself. It did not. But I boarded the plane. Because there was nothing left behind me worth going back to. The flight was short. When I landed and walked through the small arrivals area of a regional airport barely bigger than a bus station, I almost missed her. An elderly woman, maybe 70 or so, small and still, holding a handwritten sign with my name on it. Adella. Just that. In thick black marker. I stopped walking. My heart started doing something strange. She looked at me with the kind of eyes that carry a long story in them, and she smiled. Not a polite smile. A relieved one. Like she had been exhaling slowly for years and had finally reached the end of the breath. I walked up to her and she said, before I could even open my mouth, your grandfather has been waiting 18 years to tell you the truth. I did not know I had a grandfather. I did not know there was a truth. I did not know anything in that moment except that this woman had my name on a sign and that for the first time in my life, someone had been waiting for me. Her name was Rosalie. She had the kind of hands that have done real work, soft but firm when she took mine, leading me out to a weathered blue truck parked crookedly near the exit. She did not offer a lot of words on the drive, and I did not ask for them. I sat in the passenger seat and watched Vermont roll past in the window, green and gray and wide open in a way that city life had never given me. We turned down a long gravel road lined with old maple trees, and I felt something strange move through my chest. Something I could not name yet. Something that felt almost like recognition. The house at the end of that road was old but cared for. Painted white with a deep front porch and flower beds that had been tended with real attention. And sitting on that porch in a wooden chair with a blanket across his lap was an old man. He was watching the truck pull in. When I stepped out and he saw my face clearly, he closed his eyes for a moment. His jaw tightened. When he opened them again, they were wet. He said my name once. Just once. And the way he said it told me everything I needed to know, that whoever I was to him, I had been missed. Deeply. For a very long time. His name was Walter Kane. And nothing would ever be the same after that afternoon. Walter Kane was 74 years old, but his eyes were sharp and clear the way only eyes that have carried heavy secrets for a long time can be. Rosalie helped him slowly to his feet, and he stood there on that porch looking at me like I was something he had been afraid he would never see. I did not rush toward him. I did not know him. But something in my body recognized something in his, the way you sometimes feel a place is familiar even though you have never been there before. He extended his hand first, respecting that I was a stranger to him in every practical sense, even if I was not a stranger in his heart. I shook it. His grip was gentle but deliberate. He said, "Come inside, Adella. There is a lot I owe you." We sat at a kitchen table that had seen decades of meals and conversations. Rosalie put a kettle on and moved quietly around the kitchen the way people do when they understand that some moments need warm background noise and nothing else. Walter folded his hands on the table and looked at me steadily. He did not ease into it. He had clearly decided that I deserved the full truth without cushioning and without delay. He began from the beginning. My mother, his daughter, had gotten pregnant at 19 with me. My biological father was a man named Corvin Wells, a quiet and serious young man from Millhaven who had grown up 2 roads over from this very house. Walter had liked him, trusted him. My mother had loved him, genuinely and completely, the way you love someone when you are young and the world still feels like it belongs to you. But the man I had grown up calling my father, the one who had driven away from the airport curb without looking back, he had entered the picture when I was only 3 months old. He was older, had money, had position, and he had given my mother an ultimatum. Leave Corvin behind completely, sever all ties, move away and raise me as his own, or lose his support entirely. My mother had chosen security over truth. Walter's voice did not shake when he told me this, but I could see what it cost him to say it. He had protested. He had argued with my mother. He had told her that a child deserved to know where she came from. She had accused him of interfering. They had fought bitterly. And then she had done the thing that broke him completely. She had cut off contact, moved across the country, and made sure I never heard Walter Kane's name once in 18 years. He had letters he had written me every single year on my birthday, stacked in a box in the next room, never sent because he had no address, no access, no legal ground to stand on. 37 letters in total. Some from birthdays. Some from ordinary days when he had simply missed me too much to stay quiet. Then he told me about my biological father, Corvin. And this is the part where my hands started trembling under the table. Corvin Wells had never stopped asking about me. He had married eventually, built a life, but he had never closed the door on finding me. He had hired someone 3 years ago to quietly trace what had happened. That search had eventually led back to Walter, who by then had lost hope of ever reaching me through my mother. Together, they had pieced together enough to know that when I turned 18, the legal and practical barriers my mother had relied on would shift. Walter had reached out to the man I had called my father through a lawyer, simply requesting that I be given the choice to know my real history. The response had been that plane ticket. A one-way trip designed to look like abandonment, but which Walter now believed was my mother's way of releasing a guilt she had carried for nearly 2 decades without ever admitting it aloud. I sat with all of that for a long time. The kettle had long gone quiet. The tea in front of me had gone cold. Rosalie had slipped out of the room at some point, and it was just Walter and me at that table. I asked him where Corvin was now. Walter looked at me carefully and said he was 1 phone call away, that he had been told I was coming, and that he was waiting to hear from me when and if I was ready. He was not going to push. He had waited this long. He would wait longer if I needed him to. I asked Walter why he had never given up. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something I have carried with me every day since. He said, "Because you were real to me even when I couldn't reach you. Some people give up on what they can't see. I never could." I stayed in Millhaven for 2 weeks that first visit. I slept in a room Walter had quietly kept ready, not obsessively, not strangely, but hopefully. There were books on the shelf he thought I might like based on what my mother had loved as a girl. There was a quilt Rosalie had made the previous winter. It was the first bedroom in my life that had been prepared for me with genuine care and zero expectation in return. I met Corvin on the fourth day. He was tall and gray at the temples now, and he stood in Walter's front yard with his hands in his jacket pockets, and he looked at me the way Walter had, like something lost had been returned. We talked for 4 hours that first afternoon. And then more the next day. And the day after that. I am 27 now. I have a relationship with both of them that I protect fiercely. I have never gone back to the people who drove away from that curb. Not out of bitterness. I worked through that slowly and painfully over years, but because some doors, once honestly examined, simply do not need to be reopened. What my parents intended as a dismissal turned out to be the only gift they ever actually gave me. They handed me a one-way ticket and thought they were ending a chapter. What they did not know, what I know now with absolute certainty, is that they were beginning one. The destination did not just save my life. It gave me one worth living. If this story moved something in you, you are not alone. Stories like Adella's remind us that our beginnings do not define us, but the people who choose to show up for us absolutely do. If you want more real, powerful, and deeply human stories like this one, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that bell so you never miss a single one. Someone out there needed to hear this today, share it with them. We will see you in the next story.